Hey everybody, Mike from Michigan. This is my new project. It's a Tye Pasture Pleaser no-till drill, 80 inches wide. It's got some surface rust, but otherwise it's pretty solid. Well, I've got a couple hours into it. Other than a couple rusted bolts, everything seemed to come apart good. Got the hoppers off and the seat cups all apart, and we'll go from there. I've got everything off that can come off. The drive coulter's got this homemade gear guard on it that looks like it broke at one point, and they just welded it back together, but now it's hanging too low because you can see here where it hits the dirt, which lifts the coulter out of the ground. So I'm going to cut this off and see if I can come up with something a little better. We've got a place up the street that rents out sandblasting booths by the hour. I go there quite a bit. If you do anything with a wire wheel, you know how hard it is to get in these little grooves. The sandblasting does just a phenomenal job. It's faster than a wire wheel, and the main thing for me is it's so much cleaner. There's no dust flying through the air, no rust particles, metal particles, grease, paint, any of that stuff that you have to worry about breathing or getting all over your shop. Just got back from the second trip to the sandblaster. Got all the hubs done and a whole bunch of the springs. One more reason I like the sandblasting is all that grease that was dried and packed in these hubs. It's all gone. Nice and clean, easy to start with. I left the races in, the old ones. I'll knock those out and replace it just to protect that metal in there because that's a pretty tight fit. Just got back from the sandblaster with the main hubs from the planting arms. These are cast aluminum. Going to start working on replacing the bearings and the coulter hubs. I got this kit from Shoop. It comes with a dust cover, a seal, 2 races and 2 bearings. It's for 1982 and newer Tye coulters. So the kits I ordered go to the 8 coulters, but the drive coulter has a different hub than the rest. It takes a smaller bearing on the top and a larger bearing on the bottom. And of course I didn't realize that till I was changing the races out. So now I'm going to have to order another kit for this one. So I got a hold of Shoop, ordered another bearing kit for that drive coulter. Basically, if your bearings are 2 different size, that's pre-1982, and that's going to be GD 5505 through Shoop. And if it's 82 or newer, it's going to be 5506, and those bearings are the same size. So if you're taking yours apart, the easiest way to tell if the bearings are the same, it's going to be this kit, and if the bearings are 2 different sizes, it's going to be this kit. These bearing packers are about $7. I got this one on Amazon. Let's see here. Works good for repacking old bearings and good for new ones. Saves a lot of time, a lot of mess. What you need is a either a cordless grease gun or a air grease gun. I got one up north, but not here. It saved me a lot of time also. Crank it down to seat the bearing and then loosen it back up. There we go. And we'll just put the cotter pin through the castle nut and this one will be all set. Quick tip for putting the new caps in the hubs. If you take one of the old races, it's the same size as the lip on the cap and you can put it right on the top there and gives you a nice flat surface to tap it in with. Gonna start putting the coulter assembly together. It's got a lot of square bolts in it, and these are actually called set screws, and this is a cup nose set screw, and these work by using the bottom friction to hold things in place. So if you ever lose one of these, you shouldn't replace it with a regular bolt because it just won't hold like these will, and over time you'll just strip out whatever you're trying to hold. When you're working with pieces that have threaded ends on them, if you get a die for the same size as the threads and run them through, that really cleans those threads up and makes the piece a lot easier to work with. And then it takes a real thin nut. These are called jam nuts. They're put on here to keep the first nut from loosening up. I'm just getting everything together now. We'll get it all adjusted when it's done. The factory setting is that this spring is 6 1/4 inches long, so that's what we're going to set it to. According to the manual, that gives you 400 pounds of down pressure, but it also gives you enough spring to protect the coulters in case you hit something. So loose, it's just over 6 1/2. Six 1/4. Make sure you put the collar in, as I just about forgot. This sets the depth of the coulter. The factory setting is 2 inches out the top. And this will all have to be adjusted once we get out in the field. You can see this is a bend in it, so you can turn it this way or this way in case your coulter is not tracking with your discs in the back. And this gives you just enough swivel in there so it can move a little bit if you hit something. And we put a coulter pin in each one of these, and once it's installed, I'll put one in here too. It's just kind of a safety thing in case the nut comes loose and it goes. That'll keep it from falling all the way out while you're going through the field. I got the seed box apart. It turned out the bottom was a little rustier than I thought. So I went to a sheet metal place, and for 50 bucks they bent me a new bottom and had a plasma table, cut all the holes out for me. So I'll drop that in, weld it in place, and cut the old bottom off. I had to make me a couple new end pieces also, but they could only bend it on 4 sides, so I had to make some tabs and weld those in for the angles, and that seemed to turn out pretty good. So I started working on the outside of the large bend, cleaning that weld up. Pretty happy with how that turned out so far. Let's hit it with the flap disc and we'll be ready. Okay, gonna start putting the press wheel assembly together. The one I have is a 2x13 wheel. That one requires 2 bearings, 1 in each side. When I took it apart, I was surprised about a third of the bearings were completely seized up. So I was going to just replace those. I went on Amazon and found a company called Global Power USA. They were so cheap, they're only $3.60 a piece, I think. I ended up ordering 16 of them and just replacing them all. It was about less than $50 with shipping for everything. How these go back together, it takes a bearing, 1 on each side. They just press in, and then a spacer like this goes in between, and then the other bearing. Slide in the middle. I ordered all new discs for it. The ones that came with it were green, which led me to believe that they are the factory originals. You can see how much they've wore down over the years. I've ordered these new ones from Shoop. I don't know if you can tell or not, but the Shoop discs are at least twice, maybe 3 times thicker than what the factory disc was. As the Shoop comes as a kit, it comes with a dust cover, 2 different size spacers, and it comes with a bolt to install it. Just remember, you need half of them right hand thread and half of them left hand thread for the different sizes. So if you're looking for discs, make sure you look and see what's included. I saw a lot of them that didn't include the bearing, and others didn't include the bolt, and some of them, the left hand thread bolt, they wanted like $12 or $15 a piece for them on top of the cost of the disc. Shoop, everything comes in a nice package and you're ready to go. So go ahead and start putting this together. And the dust cover goes on, and then the bolt. This is the left hand. So let's snug that up. And you can see it's not turning. So we need to put in a spacer. Take our thick spacer here, right at the back. You can see that's kind of hollowed out so it'll fit in there flush. Snug that up. You can see that disc turns good now. And we'll flip her over and do the other side. Put our spacer in. Make sure we have a right hand thread this time. Tighten that up. There she goes. It should just be touching right at the bottom. Okay, we got all the discs on. Next we're going to put the mud scraper on. You see it's slotted, it is adjustable. With the new disc we'll put it down just about as far as it can go, just enough so the disc can spin freely without touching it. And then that spring guard goes on, facing the top. When it's right side up. That's how it should look. this first clip is welded in place, so I adjusted it out, so when I put the spacer in there, it'll be flush on the inside, and then I'll go through the rest and line them all up flush and put them in place that way. That'll get me really close to having them all the same, and then of course after I use it for a while I'll have to go in and double check it. Just going to do a quick video of the drive coulter before I put the guard on so you can see everything. This hub goes in place of the cap, the bearings right underneath there, and then it's got this spindle on it, and this gear hooks on that, a 20 tooth I believe. And then on the front there's two gears with a bearing in the middle, and there's a 3/4 inch bolt that goes through there. It's locked in place, so one of the chains comes from the drive coulter to the inside I believe, and then the outside one, since it's locked together, will come up and turn this gear here, which turns the seat cups. And here's a look at it finished. One thing to note, I did change out this front sprocket. Right here, I put a 10 tooth on it instead of the 20 that came with it. That should cut the seating rate in half. I'm going to do a pollinator mix this fall, and I need to get the seating down to about 8 pounds an acre. And I left the chain a little long, and that's why I couldn't put the guards back on it. I also had a new serial number tag made. It's not identical to the original, but it looks nice. Pretty close. I put new tie downs on it from Agco. They're about $50 a piece. On Amazon, they're about $5 a piece, and they look pretty close to the original. Quick look inside the boxes. All nice and solid. It's a large box. And then the small box. I had some new stickers made. The seeding charts, the small seed box and the large seed box are from the owner's manual. I downloaded a PDF version from Edco and copy and pasted those and had stickers made. Alright, did a little test run. I got a couple that need adjusting. You can see the double discs aren't at all in the coulter trail, so I'm going to have to adjust the coulter on 2 or 3 of these to get them all lined up. Alright, I seem to have everything lined up, tightened back up. I'll probably check it every acre or two when I use it at first just to make sure it's going okay. A couple things I did want to mention yet. There's supposed to be a bracket that goes in here that you can stack extra weights on. Mine didn't come with one, so I just put plastic caps on there. Clean it up a little bit, keep the dirt out. And the second thing, I did use the original seed cups that came with it. Some of them were pretty rough. I had to JB weld them together. This one in particular, I think it'll get me through. Talked to a couple people and they said if I was going to replace them, to upgrade them to an aftermarket or a different brand other than Tye. If anyone has done that, please drop me a note. I would be very interested to know what you used and how they worked. Otherwise, I plan to make a bunch of videos using it next summer. So check back and thanks for watching.